welcome to my fish room.
Anyhow, we're here all about aquariums and beginning freshwater, saltwater, etc. If anybody has any questions at any time, just shout them out. We'll answer your questions. And we're also over there at Star Aquatics booth 613. Got a whole bunch of stuff, fabulous prices, the whole deal. Okay, so starting an aquarium. Biggest thing to do, get the biggest tank you got room for. Okay? Because you're always going to want to add more fish, more critters, whatever. You can set it up like this. You've got filters hanging on the back. You can set it up like a saltwater tank where you got a hole drilled through the back of your tank, bottom of the tank, overflow, sump, the whole deal. Or there's canister filters, there's submersible filters, everything you can imagine. Most important thing is patience. You set up your tank, you get everything running, you let it run for like a week, week and a half, make sure your water's good, heaters are working, everything like that. You have a question? Oh, you I was hoping for a question. Okay, so anyhow, you got your tank set up, you got water running in it, and you get one or two fish, depending on the size of your tank, because you don't want to throw a whole bunch of fish into a new tank and have them overload the system and die on it. Okay? Then the second thing you do, always look after the health of your fish. Look at them every day. Freshwater fish, you don't have too much trouble with parasites and disease because they're all, born in tanks, captive raised, clean conditions, the whole deal like that. Saltwater fish, when they come in, you always got to quarantine them. You put your fish into a quarantine system with a really good filter, copper-based medication to kill parasites, stuff like that. You leave them there for at least 3 weeks, make sure they're eating well, looking happy, healthy. Then you put them in your main tank. Never go to a pet store, buy fish, take them home, put them right into your tank, unless you know that they're in good shape, okay? So if they've been in your friend's tank for 6 months, whatever, yeah, bring them home, put them in your tank, it'll be fine. But if they just came in from the wholesaler, take them home, put them in a quarantine tank, look at them, feed them, and then when they're healthy, you put them into your tank. Decorations, you can use plastic plants for fresh water. Fish don't care. They're looking for something to hide behind, underneath, etc. You don't want to have a fish in a bare, empty tank because he'll hide up in the corner, he'll hide down there, be all stressed. Research your fish before you buy them. A lot of people buy a fish, take it home, and then they find out that they don't have enough of them. Like if you have a schooling fish and you have one of them, he's scared out of his wits, okay? Put a whole bunch of fish in. If you got a solitary fish and you bought 10 of them, you're going to kill each other. There are some fish that will not live with anybody, okay? We have one over there that can only live with fish that are bigger than him. If it's a half an inch shorter than him, he eats it, okay? He's in the tank on the table and he's not hiding on the other side of that booth, okay? Just down the road. After the show, come on over, take a look at him. He's not hiding, but half the people can't find him. He's just sitting there. Compatibility. Okay. See, these fish here are African cichlids. They come from the rift lakes of Africa, Lake Mallory, Lake Tanganyika, Lake Victoria. They're very aggressive, but they're all equally aggressive. So they live together in relative harmony. If you had this group living together for a while, and you brought another fish the same color, same size, and put it in, they would beat them up, okay? So, you confuse them. Fish are not the smartest things in the world. You take a plastic container with a bunch of holes in it, put it in the tank, put the new fish in the container, leave him there for a week. They see him, he's relaxed, calm, he's eating good, tilt the container a week later and let him swim out. They won't know he's never, not always been there, okay? You'll notice there's one other fish in here with the black dots. That is actually an Exodon paradoxus. It comes from the Amazon River, nowhere near Africa. But they can live with piranha. You just got to make sure they don't beat up on the piranha. Okay, so make sure the piranha's a little bigger. In groups of 20, they're peaceful, they can live with anybody. Groups of 1, African cichlids are fine because they're all mean. Yes?
How big will they get?
I've seen them about that big. And my buddy Dave had one that big, and he had a piranha that big, and he asked me if it was going to be okay. I said, maybe. Well, Toronto took a beat and we had to separate them. See, they're also called a buck-toothed tetra. Okay? And one of the little characteristics about a tetra is, they have that little adipose fin just in front of their tail. It's like a little bump. They all got that. And they twitch. They're just sitting in the water, they twitch. I don't know why. They all do it. And most tetras are peaceful, but there's some like the Buenos Aires tetra, buck-tooth tetra that are more aggressive. All the way down to little wee neon tetras, cardinal tetras. They won't harm nobody. Now, if you want cardinal tetras, get a lot of them. They're one of those fish that if you have 2, 5, they're not happy. You got 20, happy as anything. Okay? Exodon, no. If he's in a group of 20, he's peaceful. Under that, no, he's not. Yeah. Okay, these fish here actually came from Mars. Okay? Not Mars, Mars. People with Mars births. Okay? And they've all been born in that tank. We put their parents in about 12 years ago. And so these are mouth brooders. The male fertilizes the eggs, and then the female grabs them and holds them in her mouth, because they come from really deep lakes, so they don't have all the hiding places, so they got to swim around with the eggs in their mouth. You've seen it on TV where the fish come streaming out and then they go back in. Well, those are them, okay? So in an African cichlid tank, you get the advantage of having big fish all the way to little fish, because the little fish are born in that tank, and as long as you have lots of rocks and hiding spaces so that the fish can get away, they'll all live together. If you take all the decorations out, the babies die. They all get eaten.
Or you can tell which male is female by looking at them?
Oh yeah. Like you look at them and you see how this one's kind of more washed out pale color? That's a girl. In most fish, the male is far more colorful, brilliant than the female. The whole idea is that you don't want to draw attention to a female when she's got a bunch of babies. So the male, he's flashy, he'll protect the area. These ones here, after the fish, their babies are out of their mouths for about 3 days, they no longer look after them. But there's one group of African cichlids called Burchardi. They're not the super colorfulest, but they're pretty brown with nice white fins and everything. The first parents have babies, they look after them. Then they have more babies. These babies protect those babies. And so on and so forth. And the next thing you know, you got a tank full of Burchardi because their babies all get protected and they're not protecting the other ones that they eat. Okay? But yeah, all of these fish have been born in here. Some of the fish you can tell by, you look at the fins. Now you see how there's those dots on that anal fin there? They're called false egg spots. One theory is so that the female is going to go after those eggs, and that way her eggs get fertilized. Is it necessary? No, because some of the mouth brooders do not have any dots. Okay? But the male usually has more than the female. The other thing is the finnage. Like if you look at this one, his fins go to a point, whereas if you look at this one there, the fins are round. Okay? Female's round, male's a point. When they get big, they get streamers where it's really long flowing fins. It also, of course, depends on the species. Fish habitat. Fish can be in every part of the environment, from your little shallow mucky swamp all the way to your deep ocean. So in your aquarium, you want to recreate that. Okay? The African cichlids, they come from lakes with very little vegetation because it's very hard water. The water's been flowing in there and evaporating. It doesn't really drain off to the ocean, so the mineral content gets really high. They breed for color though because of that. In the clear water without the algae, they can see a long way away, so you always pick the brightest mate. In the water, in the rivers where it's all muddy and beigey most of the time, you don't get as near colorful a fish. You'll get more oddball shapes on a silver fish, like you have fish that are like a knife. And then you got fish that are like puffers that blow up. Okay? So in your tank, what you want to do is recreate whatever scenario the fish you want to keep live in. A lot of people will set up what's called a biotope. So you research what fish come from what certain areas. Say you want to do a Central American biotope, so you're going to need lots of peat, lots of soft water, driftwood, different plants like your Amazon swords and crypts and stuff like that, and that way you're recreating a little section. Okay? Plus, if you have live plants, they help filter your water because they take phosphates, nitrates out of the water to use as fertilizer, and bacteria grows on every surface, and if you got little baby fish born in the tank, they eat that bacteria. It's called infusory. Okay? You can create that in a bucket too, but it's a lot more fun doing it in the tank. You want to breed fish? You can always set your tank up to encourage breeding. Like say you got a bunch of live bears, swordtails, potties, mollies, guppies. They have their babies, they're born live. Internally fertilized, the female fertilizes a bunch of eggs and then hatches some of them. So then she can have multiple generations without another male. And if she gets friendly with a couple of males, one batch can have 3 different fathers. Figuring out child support's a real pain.